rationale. Increased self-esteem in middle school children leads to many positive things. Through these lessons and activities, students will increase their self-esteem and recognize the qualities within themselves and others that make them unique and special. Students with high self-esteem are aware of their own special qualities and strengths. And this is kind of what we focus on, is getting to know yourself. Make sure you have to understand who you are in order to build positive relationships with other people. I'll just, as we go along and talk about each lesson, I'll just hit on what our daily lessons and objectives are.
Okay.
The first day, day one, the lesson is I am special because, and it's really just the student starting to get to know themselves. They will be able to define self-esteem and analyze their own strengths and weaknesses. And the first activity they'll do is they'll just fill out a worksheet that has questions like, I am good at blank, I enjoy blank, so-and-so is my friend because blank. And then they will take this worksheet and they'll make a collage of their personal inventory. So they'll have magazines, colored pencils, markers, and stuff like that to just put it in a picture rather than in words. And then they'll present those collages to the class. The second activity is goal setting for self-esteem fitness. And they kind of base this activity off of working out with a partner. You actually have a partner in the class who you do all these activities with. I, as a teacher, would present the kids with a menu of self-esteem goals, and this could be anything from, I want to achieve this grade in such and such a class, or I would like to be nicer to so-and-so, and that would be their goal. You would want to go around as a teacher and check these goals and make sure they're realistic and kids aren't just coming up with something completely off the wall that, you know, everybody knows it's kind of out of their reach. You want them to be confident with their goals. And then they would have a workout partner, and with this partner, they would meet every day or every other day to discuss what they're doing to accomplish these goals. So maybe it's studying for an extra hour if you want to achieve a grade, or sitting next to somebody at lunch if you wish to be nicer to that person. And then your partner would kind of check back and forth with you to make sure that you're taking the appropriate steps. The third day is just kind of building off of the self-esteem, the goal setting for self-esteem from day one. You're still working out with your workout partner. I would hand out just cards where you would write your name, what your goal is, and the steps you're going to take to achieve this goal. So, you know, you lay it out specifically, the first thing you're going to do, the second thing you're going to do, the third thing you're going to do, to make it clear how you're going to achieve these goals and make it easier. And then they would create a portrait of how they're going to feel once they achieve this goal. So once you receive an A in this class, or you build a stronger friendship, it could be a collage, it could be a drawing, it could be any kind of creative project to present to the class of your feelings, how good you're going to feel once you've accomplished your goal. And the fourth day is based off of multiple intelligences. Again, they're going to create either a cartoon or drawing, a poem. If they're good at music, they can write a song. If they're into theater, they can act it out to the class, and then they'll just present to the class, how are you going to feel once you accomplish this goal? It just is giving kids an opportunity to do something that they're good at, rather than say, you know, write me a paper on this or make a collage. You're just giving them options to show you what they're good at. And day 5 is all about having positive and powerful thoughts. I don't know how many of you have seen the movie The Secret. It's about if you think something positive is going to happen, it will happen. If you always think that negative things are going to happen to you, they probably are. And actually in the movie they use the example of, if you're going to the mall and you think, I'm never going to find a parking spot, this is impossible, you're not. But if you go in thinking, I'm going to get a rock star parking spot at the mall, you probably will. And it's just an activity kind of based on having positive thoughts. There'll be group discussion where scenarios would be presented. You know, if you have a job interview and you think my outfit's horrible, how do you think you'll do in that interview? If you go thinking, I feel good about myself today, then how do you think you'll do? And the students will just act out these activities and then say how these positive thoughts impact them.
The second week, Monday's lesson is called Parade of Masks, and the lesson starts with, like, I read a quote on the board from William Shakespeare, and it says, "This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night, the day, thou canst not then be false to any man." So I write that on the board, and I have this kind of opens the discussion for the students to interpret the quote, and it kind of gets the ball rolling for talking about how people go around wearing these masks on their face and acting like who they really are when who they really are, that's going to be good enough. And I just kind of have some questions that I ask them, like, why do people wear these masks and what might they be afraid of? And then I'd write different roles on the board, or first I'd hand out sunglasses and hats, like get the students in cooperative learning groups, give each group some hats and sunglasses, and then I write different roles on the board, such as Mr. and Mrs. Cool, class clown, class bully, class jock, class nerd, Mr. and Mrs. Conceited, and then each group gets to pick one of the roles to act out without telling the other groups. And then they get up and they kind of do their little skit, and the rest of the class has to decide who they're being. And after each performance, you just ask, which of the 6 masks is the student wearing? How do you think this person really feels? And then give the students, have them get out like a blank sheet of paper, and you have them respond to questions such as, can you remove these masks? How might wearing a mask hide who you really are? How can a person become his or her real self? Are there benefits of living mask-free? And then kind of have them meet with their goal partner pretty quickly. That way we keep the goal partner and the workout cards and that self-esteem action plan going through each of the lessons. And then on Tuesday, we would start with another focusing activity, which is another quote, but this one's from Lillian Hellman, and it says, "I cannot and will not cut my conscience to fit this year's fashions." And you just, like day 6, have the students talk about what the quote means. And there's another one you could also use, which is from Eleanor Roosevelt, and she says, "No one can make you feel inferior with your consent." And then, so for another activity, kind of like modeling, I would use like a teen magazine as my print source and tear out several pictures of models and take them to the board and ask the class if they can guess what the theme is. And of course it would be Finn, and then I'd write Finn above. And then the activity would be for the students to use different pictures from different magazines and make their own collage based on themes such as rich, romantic, successful, beautiful, muscular, smart. And then they present that to the rest of the class and kind of frame a discussion on advertising, and not only how it affects your self-esteem, but kind of focusing on how advertising is not diverse and the kind of messages that they want to send, and how you can, without any words, you can basically tell what they're trying to, the message they're trying to get across without even reading anything or knowing what the product is. And then the I Learn sheet you guys got, you can kind of use that for any kind of lesson and any kind of advisory unit, just to have your students reflect on what they've learned in that unit, and it'll also help you as a teacher to kind of add or take away from your lessons. Day 8 is called Special Friendships, And in this activity, instead of starting with quote, I'd start with a Dear Abby letter. And the Dear Abby letter I'd find would be on friendships, kind of like if you could find a teen magazine or some kind of magazine that focuses to your age group, then you can read the question to the class and then have them tell you how they would respond as if they were Dear Abby. And then tell them to do a recipe for a friend. So after I read the letter, then I would say, so what do you think are the most important aspects of being a good friend? And then I write a few of them on the board. And then I say, well, what is out of these, what is the most important thing? What do you put heavy weight on? And we number them like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I would have them add different like measurements as if you were cooking. Let's say they say being honest is number 1. Well, you want to add 2 cups of being honest, and that's kind of how you make a recipe for being a good friend. And then the activity would be to have them do their own recipe for a friend within their cooperative learning group. And then on the next day, it's called Being Socially Responsible, and this would entail having special speakers come in, maybe sponsors for activities, volunteer activities that are going on within the school community and also outside of the school. So the students can hear the speakers talk about like what sort of volunteer work they do, how much they volunteer, how does volunteering make them feel, and what do you feel are most important serious issues in the school or community, and also kind of just letting the students know that doing volunteer work and giving back to a community or school not only has benefits to those that are receiving that club's benefits, but also it can heighten your self-esteem to be involved and know that you did something good. I would begin the lesson by asking students if they know the meaning of reciprocity, and then give them time to kind of volunteer their answers. Talk about the importance of being a giver, and ask the students if they can think of an example of how they benefited from volunteer work or how others maybe they know have benefited. And then have, write like benefits to self and benefits to others on the board, and then have students brainstorm what to write in each column. There's also a worksheet that goes along with this, and it's called Socially Responsible Me, where basically they can either write down what they have done in the past or what they're planning on doing in the future and why. And then they get with partners and discuss these. And then as a group, they can volunteer and tell everybody their answers. And then the last lesson is Living with Esteem. The focusing activity is there'll be a large piece of butcher paper, and just make a kind of like a cluster, which looks like a big starburst, and it has self-esteem written in the middle. And then the students develop this by volunteering answers to what they think all goes into having high self-esteem, like knowing yourself, doing good things, being a good friend, volunteer work, all the lessons that we've discussed in the unit, because this is basically the unit wrap-up lesson. And then they update their self-esteem workout cards with their partner, review their self-esteem action plan, and complete Living with Esteem worksheet. And then kind of ask for volunteers to share their experiences that they've had during the self-esteem unit. Those that have completed their goals can get up and share how they've completed it and how it made them feel. As a class, we would again discuss the new meaning of self-esteem and what it means to them and how this unit has, or what this unit has meant to them. And then also, we had some certificate of accomplishment, and we kind of passed those out in a, kind of like a ceremonious fashion to make them feel good for completing the unit and making their self-esteem goals. And all of our lessons are a student evaluation tool. As the students are leaving the class that day after they've gotten their certificate, I just give them a 4x6 index card and have them write down one thing that they really liked about the unit and one thing that they would have changed. At the door there'll be a shoe box or some kind of box with a little slip, and then they can just slide it in, and that way, you know, just help you as a teacher know what you can change and make better. Most of our lessons, and this is on the sheet I gave you, is from what we found in the library. It's like a unit called Into Adolescence, Enhancing Self-Esteem. I mean, we didn't use every single lesson out of that, and the ones we did, we adapted, but it's a really good resource. And it's Into Adolescence. Yeah, this is what it looks like. They have Into Adolescence, any kind of advisory unit that you would ever want to teach on. So they have really good activities in here, and it's kind of like a one-stop shop if you're looking for a, quick what do I do. And